One of the strangest things I remember my paternal grandfather saying before he died is how glad he was that he didn't have to kill any Japanese soldiers during his assignment in the infantry in the Pacific during World War II. I sort of understood, and to a degree, that because of his missionary service to the Japanese people in Hawaii, that he had a special affinity for them and understood them differently than perhaps most of the soldiers over there understood them. I have the same perception, although not about the same generation, of Germans. And it has been exceptionally difficult for me to watch the Band of Brothers series and cheer my countrymen doing things to their countrymen that actually make my skin bristle. Up until today, I had a great deal of respect for the men of the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, for the challenges they overcame, the things they were able to achieve, their victories, and their down-to-earth nature about the job they had done, which was to do their job. Until, of course, you get to the end of the war and they start engaging in the same kinds of things that we use in America to justify our entrance into the war. At the beginning of the war, the American involvement was justified based on atrocities committed by the German people. And then you watch members of this particular infantry regiment, which I know is fictionalized in the account, committing the same kinds of things: trespasses, damage of personal property, tyranny, driving people out of their homes. There's a scene where they drive by 2 American soldiers who've taken 3 Germans prisoners, who then execute them summarily. And I guess it bespeaks mostly the ambiguity of war and the ambiguity of villainization of the family of man. One of the sergeants in the show before that says, Germany is a lot like being back home. You had a hot meal and a bed and real toilet paper. Which is a little bit funny given the fact that this week there's been a run on toilet paper and bottled water based on a viral outbreak, but I digress. It's difficult for me to view these men as heroes as I watch Captain Nixon break into a home looking for liquor and breaking photos because they contain pictures of high-ranking German officers. Private Webster yelling and complaining at the not demoralized, albeit defeated German soldiers who are marching in the opposite direction, etc., etc. I don't know who the dude is that's going around looting homes and sending the silver and the precious things home, but it's like these are criminal actions. Things where, unless I had come up with these guys through the ranks, like many of their officers had, I wouldn't tolerate those kinds of things, because these are people. They may be the enemy, but they're still people. And maybe that's what we forget in our arrogance and hubris, that they are making mistakes too, and they need Jesus just as much as we do. I've spent a significant number of years of my life in Europe. I spent 2 years in Europe, like they did, at around that same age. And then granted, my experience was vastly different. I wasn't there as a combatant. I was there as a missionary of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was there to talk with people about Jesus. And I had some bad experiences. And some weird experiences. And there are reasons for me to not have enjoyed my time in certain parts or with certain people. But I'm old enough now, and I was wise enough then to realize that they were members of the family of man on a distant branch. They weren't deficient, they were just different, distant relatives who had a different way of life. And so it's interesting for me to watch them demonize these people, because even though I don't know these people, and I didn't really spend a lot of time in Germany, and the people depicted in this aren't people I would have met, probably, because the people I would have met would have been like little kids at the time of the American push into Germany. but that I don't recognize them as strangers and I don't dehumanize them. That's exactly why we justified killing Germans, is because they had dehumanized other people. And we became the monsters that we went there to fight, perhaps. This past week or so, Joe Biden attacked an auto worker. He said he was full of shite because the auto worker challenged him on gun bans. And then this auto worker has put out a very nice video, very well done and well said, that some people I know will take as excuse to rise up and resort to violence against Joe Biden and his supporters. And in essence, they will vilify those people the same way those people vilify people who have guns. But we're not all the same. Downstairs above the piano, I have a musket. It's a Longland Brown Bess Model 2, 1753 model. It was made by a gunsmith in New Hampshire for me about 10 years ago to order. I asked my friend Tom at the time why he didn't consider me to be a crazy gun nut. And he said, I know why you're getting them, and as a piece of art, it is beautiful in and of itself. And it's a functional one. But it isn't so that I can go hunt with it, and it isn't for home defense. It's an homage to a time period where good decisions were made, and a lot of bad ones too, just like World War II. There is usually evil in the heroes and usually good in the villains, because history really just amounts to delineating the difference between the two based on who wins. If the Germans had managed to conquer the world, I don't think that we would be talking about the Germans or the Nazis as if they were evil or wicked. But because they lost, we can sit here on our high horse and look down on them. And because I didn't go into Germany and then vilify and complain after having been at war and had my life threatened, it's easy for me to armchair quarterback at this point what the men of Currahee did after their ordeal. My experiences and traumas in Europe were not the same as theirs. I was mistreated, but people did not seek my life. I was ostracized and unwelcome, but nobody tried to shoot me or steal from me. Yeah, that's not true, but it was very rare. It was rare enough that I had to think about it just now to remember that, yes, there were a few people who did try to rob me, steal things from me, or to cheat me out of things. It was also interesting for me to watch myself try to rise up in their defense, especially since this is a fictitious account, but of people I have never met. And for people to whom I owe nothing, no debt, no honor, no noblesse oblige, nothing, because they were being wronged. And this is not the first time I've seen that kind of a story. Maybe that's why my grandfather was glad he didn't have to kill any Japanese. Same way he might have been if he had been sent to Germany and not had to discharge his weapon. Maybe that's why so many people are grateful they don't have to go to war. They don't have to hate another person enough to kill them. It makes me think about almost 5 years ago, coming up in May, when a man mugged me and took my stuff and threatened my life, and the cops asked me why I didn't kill him when they learned I had a .357 Magnum. I said because death is a serious penalty for the theft of $40 worth of groceries and ammunition. It's a pretty permanent consequence for a temporary lapse in judgment. I didn't hate him enough that it even dawned on me that I should draw a weapon and use it, then threaten him with it, let alone use it, because I didn't know him. I've seen him once since then. I think he recognizes me. I think he realizes, having now gone through my backpack, that I have a .357 Magnum, and wonders why I didn't kill him. Because he doesn't get close to me. Maybe he's changed. If I'd killed him, we would have never known. Because Germany definitely changed after the war. And if we'd wiped out the Hun bastards, we would never know. It's probably the only thing I don't like about George Patton is the blatant disregard for the humanity of the enemy. Because yes, there were some evil Germans, but we have a crap ton of evil people in our own country, and a crap ton of people who are using the evil in others to justify evil in themselves, which is definitely not something that's fitting of a Christ-like people, of a Christian people. So it's been a very interesting Sunday. The first Sunday where church is canceled worldwide by the church. And this is what I'm thinking about. The family of man. Maybe it's not such a bad lesson. It's definitely not what was on the lesson for today. But I'm grateful for these thoughts, for the perspective, and that I got to meet the people of Austria, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, and Slovenia in a different way. For the people I met in Great Britain, and the people I've met elsewhere and who are from elsewhere, who have shown me that wickedness is a choice that we make about how we are, that it is not who we are, it is about what we do and why we do it that makes it wicked. I still subscribe to the notion once coined by C.S. Lewis in the 1967 preface to the Screwtape Letters, where he writes, "I do not believe that if you take away all that is good in man, you are left with a bad man. I believe that if you take away all that is good in man, you are left with nothing at all." Maybe it would behoove us a little bit to look at people trying to find the good in them more, however Pollyanna that may be, because I appreciate that in this Band of Brothers series they tried to show that they talked about it because it's true, and then they showed that our men were flawed because nobody's perfect and everybody needs a savior. It's a good reminder. So, Godspeed, happy Sunday, take care.